Gentlemen, the topic of discussion for today is global warming. In this discussion, we will study about as to what is global warming, what are its causes, what are its effects, and how the effects can be minimized or controlled. So global warming is the unusually rapid increase in the Earth's average surface temperature over the past century. The globe has gradually been heating up at quite a fast rate. Both land as well as ocean surfaces are becoming warmer and warmer day by day. And the record since 1880, when the record keeping started, shows that temperature has risen at the rate of 0.07 degrees Celsius per decade from 1880 to 1980. And from 1980 onwards, when the industrialization speeded up in the third world countries like China, India, and so many others, it has increased at the rate of 0.18 degrees Celsius per decade. Temperatures in 2019 were on an average higher by 0.95 degrees Celsius from the average of 20th century averages. So in the after the industrial era started, there has been a total almost increase of 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius increase in global temperature. Now let us see why are the temperatures increasing. Increase in temperature of Earth's atmosphere is happening due to alarming rate of increase in release of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Let us know what is a greenhouse. The greenhouse is the Earth's atmosphere, which catches or holds the radiation coming from Earth after it is reflected from the Earth's surface. The radiation or the heat comes from sun to Earth. It falls on the Earth's surface. It is reflected. Most of it goes back into the space, but part of it is retained in the atmosphere of the Earth. In the past, it was at such a level that it could sustain and keep the life of the on the Earth going comfortably. All forms of life thrived in the past. Now, with what entraps, what catches the heat is the greenhouse gases. There are various types of gases, mostly nitrogen, which is about 79%, oxygen about 20.5%, and carbon dioxide 0.4%, and some other traces and water vapor. So greenhouse gases, mainly the carbon dioxide and methane, etc., they are the ones which hold the warmth in the, and they catch the heat and keep it in the greenhouse, that is atmosphere. Now over the past 1 century, after the industrialization started, the release or emission of greenhouse gases has increased manifold. This has happened due to industrialization, use of fossil fuel, mainly the coal and now petroleum products. 1500 years back, there were two massive volcanoes which threw up a lot of dust and smoke into the upper atmosphere. And as a result, what had happened was that Earth's light could not fall on the sun's light could not fall on the Earth. And as a result, Earth became quite cold. Gradually, that dust settled down and the light again started, the heat again started coming to the Earth. During that 1 year, 1 or 2 years, till that happened, there was a lot of temperature fall on the Earth's surface. As a result, which the crops failed, there was starvation, there was a lot of problem to the living beings. But today, what is happening is just the opposite of that. Today, too much of heat is being trapped by the greenhouse gases. And as a result, what is happening is that the temperature of the Earth is going up. Now, as we have studied, as we have learned that greenhouse gases, they are the ones responsible for increase in the temperature. Let us now get to know what are these greenhouse gases. These are 5 major greenhouse gases. First, I will name them and then describe them. First is carbon dioxide, then is methane, then nitrous oxide, fluorinated gases, and sulfur hexafluoride. Now, first 3, that is carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, they occur in the Earth's atmosphere. The remaining 2, that is fluorinated gases and sulfur hexafluoride, are totally man-made. They do not occur in nature on their own. They have been created by man, by humans for certain industrial requirements. Now let us see what is carbon dioxide. When is carbon dioxide produced? Carbon dioxide is produced whenever anything is burnt. And carbon dioxide is released out of burning. Okay. Now, main sources of carbon dioxide are power plant, which use coal mainly, or natural gases, and then burning of gasoline in the engines of the motor vehicles, which account for about 20% of the carbon dioxide which is released additionally by human activity into the atmosphere. The next gas is methane. Methane is produced naturally also in mainly in the bovine, that is the cattle's stomachs, due to their birthing and when they digest the food, and also the pigs, but also during agriculture processes like paddy fields, they also produce lot. When the water is stagnant in the fields, lot of methane is produced as a result of microbial actions. And as I already told you, in the bovine this thing, that is also a sort of agriculture in the animal farms. The animals are also raised for milk, for meat, mainly the beef and the pork. And when a lot of animals are raised, then lot of gas they'll be producing lot of methane. Next gas is nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is also produced in nature during the nitrogen cycle. As I said earlier, nitrogen is the major. It's about 79 to 80% of the total gases in the air. So, in the nitrogen has a cycle. From the atmosphere, it goes to the soil. From the soil, it goes to the plants. From the plants, it goes to the animals. When the plants and the animals die, it gets released back into the atmosphere. So that is the nitrogen cycle, which as a result of which some nitrogen oxide is produced by the nature and which is used for normal greenhouse purpose and for various other things. But however, due to human action, that is mainly combustion of certain materials, and also the agriculture activities, mainly use of chemical fertilizers and other compounds which release nitrous oxide into the atmosphere. So now, due to human activity, agriculture and the related activities, more nitrous oxide is being released into the atmosphere. Then fourth gas is fluorinated gases. Fluorinated gases were created as replacement of refrigerants, which were earlier refrigerants were accused of being ozone depleting. Though fluorinated gases are not ozone depleting, but they are proved to be extremely long lasting and extremely warming greenhouse gases. They are at times 180 to 800 times more warming as compared to carbon dioxide. And they stay in the atmosphere for very, very long times, for years, for centuries. Though their proportion at present in the atmosphere is very less, but due to their large effect, the cumulative effect of theirs is high. Then the sulfur hexafluoride. Sulfur hexafluoride or SF6 is used for some specialized procedures, primarily in dielectric materials such as transformers and also in some medical equipment. And they can also last for thousands of years in the upper atmosphere, and their greenhouse, their warming potential is about 20,000 times as compared to carbon dioxide. So these are the 5 main greenhouse gases whose proportion, whose emission into the atmosphere is raising the temperatures in the surface of the earth and oceans. There is one more thing which I'll talk about, which is not a gas, which is black carbon. What happens when something is burnt? There is incomplete combustion of fossil fuels and the biofuels, and also the biomass. So extremely small, when the incomplete combustion is there, extremely small particles of carbons, they get released into the atmosphere, and they hang in the atmosphere, though not for very long time, but their effect in holding the heat from the coming from sun into the atmosphere is very large. Eventually, in few days, they settle down on the surface of the earth. They are so tiny, so small that they are when inhaled by human beings and animals, they can pass through the pores of the lungs and go into the bloodstreams. So the black carbon is another thing which is responsible for whose emission, and this is due to human activity that its proportion in the atmosphere has increased. One more thing about the black carbon is that when it falls over snow, glaciers or ice caps, it hinders the reflection of the heat from those bright surfaces, and the heat gets absorbed into snow and ice, and they start melting. The glaciers and ice caps, they start melting. So that is another damage which is caused by the black carbon. Now, as I said earlier also, black carbon is emitted by burning of fuels and also from petroleum, especially from diesel, burning of diesel. There are a lot of black carbon, unburnt carbons which are released into the atmosphere. Okay. Agriculture process which has increased. Sorry.
Can I please keep a watch over the time also? Thank you.
Okay, okay. So these are the main things, gases which are responsible for increase in the temperature. Now, what are the effects? Then I tell you what are the effects on the atmosphere. When the temperature increases, lot of energy remains in the atmosphere, which heats up the surfaces of the oceans, creates lots of vapors, water vapors, increases the speeds of the suns. As a result, there is more of precipitation. Increase in the speed brings in sudden rain, and as a result of that, there is flooding in certain areas, while in other places, due to excessive heat on the surface of the earth, evaporation, the earth becomes dry, and the vegetation dries up, and desertification effect and scanty rain is the result. So the problem is the effect is on the climate. So the climate of area of the earth as a whole changes, and which brings in things like hurricanes, typhoons with vast energy and with vast capacity to cause destruction. We have seen in last few years so many hurricanes and typhoons and cyclones have come gradually. Then what happens when the heat in the atmosphere is more? The glaciers, the ice caps, they melt. When they melt more water fresh water is released into the sea, rivers, and eventually into the sea, and the level of the sea rises. It has been seen that in last 1 century, there has been a rise by 8 inches in the level of the sea. If this continues, then gradually more and more the coastal cities and the people who live on the coastal areas, the cities will get submerged, and lot of land area will be lost to the ocean. Okay. So another effect will be on the production of agriculture production. What happens, the crop pattern, when the temperatures increase, the crops also, they require the warmer periods are for a more period of time. The colder periods are lesser. So the crops, the yield goes down. They mature faster, and the yield goes down, and the production of food decreases. In some areas, there are famines. The crops fail. New and new insects and other crop diseases, they appear, which destroy the crops because of the change in the climate condition of the area, and those required for the crops to give the maximum yield. Okay. with the glaciers melting, the effects, I think, has a lot of studies going on, but as it affects our country, India, the North India will be probably, or the South Asia as a whole, will be the most affected part of the world due to this. With the glaciers melting, glaciers receding, there will be a time when release of water into the river, which is perennial, will not be there, or very little water will be there in the rivers. As a result, the water available for agriculture and all other human activities or all other activities will become scanty. And with that, every life activity will be affected. As it is more glaciers and ice caps melting, the fresh water availability for the mankind, for the life, for animals, for agriculture, for forests will reduce. With that reduction, there will be effect on production of everything. Then what will happen is the ecosystem will change. There will be migrations because the areas which become inhabitable, people, even the life animals will shift from there and go to other places. So many, with the rise in the level of the oceans, so many islands will get submerged. So many countries will just disappear into the water. And it will also have a lot of effect on the human health.
So,
the heat strokes, sunstrokes will become more apparent. They will become a problem. Their intensity will increase. With the increase in temperatures, outdoor temperature, it will become difficult to work in the open. Then, with more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, there will be more absorption of gases, these greenhouse gases, into the seawater. Seawater will become more alkaline. As a result, it will affect the life of marines, mainly the fishes, and availability. So many varieties may become extinct. But fish available for human consumption will become less. It may result in food scarcity and distribution, and the food will become expensive. It will result in water scarcity and so many other problems. And eventually it will have a lot of economic effect. So this is probably today one of the biggest challenges posed by nature, created by humans, which faces all kinds of life on the earth and sustenance of life on the planet. Now, a lot of study is happening in this field. People, the advanced countries who are the main culprits, who are releasing maximum greenhouse gases into the earth atmosphere, and also the countries which will be more affected, which are poor countries, which are developing countries like India, which will be affected more. A lot of studies are going on, and they are being found how to decrease the emissions of these gases into the atmosphere and reduce or the rise in the level of temperature of the earth, and to cap it at a certain level so that abnormal increase is stopped, and otherwise, if it goes on at this rate, it has been estimated that by turn of this century, that is 2100 year, it may rise by 4 to 5 degrees, and which will bring very, very devastating effects on the life on the earth. Now, there have been some accords, some understanding by the emitters, various measures which they would take. But I will mainly say a few things that as individuals, as citizens of the world, what can we contribute? How can we contribute? Though it may not be, it may be very minimal. The main action will have to be taken at a global level by the governments, by the scientists, by finding out ways how to lessen the use of fossil fuels and go to renewable energy, that is the solar, wind, and other things, and to stop the use of that is happening. But as citizens, what we can do is, firstly, we can be aware ourselves, and we can make more people aware. It is learned, it has been found that even in the advanced countries, where education standards are high, only about 65% population is aware about global warming. And in third world countries, it is much less who are aware about it. Then we can increase the afforestation. We can use appliances which consume lesser electricity. We can limit our use of plastics, because plastics burning and plastic storage, or they will also release a lot of greenhouse gases. So these are the things which we can do at the individual level. So that was what mainly generally I had to say. I will hand over now you to the next speaker.
Good evening, sir. I just try to take less time only. The whole problem of global warming came because of wrong technologies. Immediately after the Industrial Revolution started, and the solution also would have to be from the technology. And already, without taking time in talking about the past, our technical side is doing very well. I think the world is moving pretty fast as far as technology is concerned. For instance, already as far as solar energy is concerned, today solar power plant is less expensive than a thermal plant. The viability of solar plant has been well proven, and it can very well take over the course of time from the solar power. Similar things have happened as far as recycling of waste is concerned. Similar things have happened as far as usage of, you can say, effluent treatment plants are concerned. But the application has not been that fast. And that is where I would like to just speak few words. That is on the political side. A great accord was signed in 2016, Paris Accord, in which 195 countries participated. And the major strategy that was adopted was that rather than forcing the nation, there should be voluntary, everybody should give a voluntary submission, make a pledge, that is called a pledge. That every country must take a pledge. See how ultimately till 2050, our limit of raising the temperature is just 2 degrees, within 2 degrees, below 2 degrees of pre-industrial time. Ideal, they are told is it should be 1.5, but at least it should be not more than 2 degree temperature. Maximum, it should be less than 2 degree. And because all the nations, they have got their own politics, they have got a lot of pressure, because the most powerful people today are the petroleum companies, who are not in favor of people changing out, country changing out. So they are using lot of finances, lot of politics is being played. See the 2016, for instance, 2016, the Paris Accord was signed, and the same year Trump has come in USA. He became president, and at once he told it is all bogus, because possibly he was being pressurized and he was using the power of all the petroleum companies. The biggest companies of petroleum are in USA, apart from Middle East, and most of them are very, very powerful, financially very rich. Same way, now again Biden has re-entered. Of course, 120 companies have already pledged, and China, which is the second largest polluting country of the world, they are spending lot of money. In fact, maximum investment on green technologies is being made by China, both on minus and plus side. On minus point side, they are the second largest polluting country in the world, but on plus side, they are very, very mindful of their responsibility, and we hope that they will do it sooner. Of course, India, as the third largest polluting country of the world, has a lot of pressure. But USA and China are already well on the way of, they are not still pledged to best of my knowledge. Karna Sab can tell this point, but they are well on the way of moving toward that passing that pledge. 120 countries are already given this pledge that they are given different year, by which year they would try to bring it to the 2 degree temperature on the line to that achieving that. And the nice thing is the technology is moving very fast. What was once considered not possible is not considered possible. But it is a politics which is taking away. For instance, in India, there is every year we are having a very high level of pollution in Delhi, which comes from agriculture waste from Punjab and UP, which is very much within the reach of central government. They can take care of it if they wish to have it, but they are not doing, because they feel it's not worth spending that money. That shows lack of commitment. Now I will also tell you the simultaneously avoiding fossil fuels everywhere, including energy, transportation, domestic life. Then there are significant areas like waste recycling, upgrading infrastructure, improving Earth's green cover. These are all things which I have already covered, so I am not repeating them. And last but not the least, there are a lot of very large experiments are in the anvil on technology side. How we can, in mass, reflect the sunlight itself away from Earth actually. How we can cool the temperature. How we can do lot of gases they want to introduce in the atmosphere, which will cool down. But this still no feasible solution has come. But world is working fast, and I'm hopeful that some solution would be found in which we can have some sizable reduction in the production of carbon dioxide released in the air. But one thing we should remember, last but the point is, there are many poor countries who can't afford those technologies. World would have to help them, and it will also mean lot of changes we have to do in our personal homes also. Like more and more people are working from home, they're becoming vegetarian. Vegetarianism, for instance, is more in line with the reducing the pollution, reducing the production of carbon dioxide. avoiding tree cutting, how we can reduce the cutting, how we can increase the green covers. These all are within the reach of all of us, which we should all do. So ultimately, what is most important is the whole world should be made more conscious. The figure, I mean, as you are told, 65% people in the advanced country are already aware. We have to make them, the poorer countries also very conscious about that, so that the issue of uh, global warming becomes as important as unemployment, as poverty, as health and education. The issue of environment should be as important. Everybody should feel, and they should vote on this. It should become a voting issue where government should fear. Then only our leaders will become mindful of how the technology should be quickened up, and how the benefit of technology should be available to all the countries of the world, both poorer as well as well-to-do people. And within well-to-do people also, we have to somehow discourage those who come from such industries as coal industry, petroleum industry. For the countries, every nation will have to decide the cost it was willing to bear to achieve that pledge that it is giving to the world, how much cost it is willing to bear, to pass the legislate the necessary laws and financial policies, to promote investment and reward the green technologies sufficiently, while discouraging, including blanket ban on polluting industries. This every country has to take the in its planning. All the 195 countries have to undergo that. The main responsibility of it will lie with the most polluting country, that includes India also, as well as most advanced country, that most of the pollution is being caused in those countries. Then every nation will also need to periodically review its policies, say every 5 years or so that lots of new technologies are emerging, how they can introduce a new technology, and with those absorption of those technologies, can they reach faster the goal, the faster the pledge that they are giving to the world. These two countries, these two things which every nation and every national leadership will have to take care. They also would have to finance and help the poorer nations in giving those technologies without charging them too much, so that everybody can participate in this great world movement where every stake of every country is involved. Number three, every person at the house also has to change our lifestyle. We have to, the first thing that we have to do in our houses is recycle our wastage, how we can minimize the wastage and recycle whatever the wastage is being produced. Number two, to have more greenery around our houses, how to live, that is the number two thing. And the final point is how we can live more natural, how live more with the nature and less with the artificiality, because it is artificiality and synthetic life which produces more wastage. So our lifestyle also has to change with that. This is my last part of conclusion. With these words, I thank you and pass to the next speaker.
Thanks very much, sir. Brilliant being in this wonderful company once again. Colonel P.V. Singh has, in a very detailed fashion, given us the total backdrop in which this problem has actually become so big and so big a concern for the whole humanity that now everybody, be it a developed nation or a poor country, I think this is high on the agenda for each country. More than anything else, I would have 3-4 points to make. The first most important thing is that, ironically, this is a man-made problem. Many years back, before the industrialization started, people hardly, experienced such problems. So in the way we have developed, in the way industrialization took place, in the way we made our lives much more luxurious, in the same way, the man-made problems have also been cropping up, and they have become so difficult now to handle that at the top level, which is the World Club of Nations, which is UN, they are probably giving it the top priority. And we recently had John Kerry, who is the the US climate ambassador. He came over to India because America, the new dispensation there is actually giving the desired importance to the fact. Now, the problem for a developing country like India is that as it stands, the major developed nations and the industrialized nations of the world, they have been the ones who have actually contributed majorly to this. And we as the developing nations are yet to peak in terms of our manufacturing capability or our industrialization. Now, the larger states, they peaked about more than 50 years back. They have already peaked about 25 years back. In the late 90s to 2000, most of the Europe and US, they had peaked. And now they are being permitted, if we look at the Paris Convention, they are being permitted a much larger, time span to discipline themselves compared to India, which is likely to peak in 2040 or 2045. So the problem, therefore, is in terms of all the countries being mindful of the fact that each country has a different role to play in solving the problem. And I was, in the morning itself, I was talking to Colonel PV Singh that this is one problem where no country, even if it is highly disciplined and has been highly compliant, they can't isolate themselves from the rest of the world, that they have done their bit and now whatever happens, they are not bothered. It is not like that. Even if a country like Bhutan, which to my knowledge is the only country which absorbs more carbon dioxide than what it releases, even they can't sit idle because they are surrounded by so many countries. We are still fighting with the problem. So basically, I would take 2-3 steps that the world community has taken to address it. The first most important step was the 1997 Kyoto Protocol, which took place in Kyoto in Japan, wherein for the first time, in line with the 1992 Convention of the UN, the member countries showed their concern and they resolved to address this problem. Unfortunately, the Kyoto Protocol did not give the desired results because it was majorly focused on the developed countries, and they were given very clear-cut directives to reduce their the contributions to the carbon dioxide and rest of the greenhouse gases emissions. And as regards the developing countries, they were not given any targets, and it was left to them to voluntarily take it up. And there lies the problem, because going forward, major misunderstanding cropped up, and it is everybody's knowledge that Kyoto Protocol did not give the desired results. But then the world community kept on trying to find out solutions, and the 2016 Paris Accord is a much more balanced and well-defined convention. It has been, joined by most of the leading, rather all leading companies of the world, barring Iran, Iraq, and Turkey, and a couple of more other countries. Unfortunately, US, which is the only force these days in the world, they had a very typical leadership till a few months back. And the gentleman there, which Sardar Kuldeep Singh ji has already mentioned, he called it a hoax, and he says that this talk about global warming is all, it is a funny thing and hardly needs any attention. And US in 2020, they withdrew from Paris Accord. But the positive thing is that the day this new dispensation came in the US, the first thing that he indicated was their recommitment to this cause. So now the whole world is united. But then the problem is every country has its own peculiar challenges. And the most important thing that was discussed at Paris was that for this transition from the, polluting environment to an environment which would be much cleaner and safer, it would require a lot of technology intervention. And for technology intervention required, major funding taking place, which poor countries or developing countries like India, they can't afford. So it was decided that the rich countries, they would help the poor countries in this transition, and on an average, they would be spending about 100 billion USD every year, which would keep increasing for the next 20 years. By that time, most of the developed countries, because as Sardar Kuldeep Singh ji has already mentioned, the Paris Accord says that by 2050, most of the countries, or rather all countries, should become carbon neutral, which means that they should not be adding anymore. Now that can't be a mathematical solution because each country would have its own problems. China has already said that they would do it by 2060. Actually, I was mentioning that each country has its own realities that it is facing. And although the world community has taken 2050 as the D-Day or the year, cutoff year, there are many countries which would ideally, which should become carbon neutral by 2030 or maximum by 2035. There are hosts of such countries. And on the other side, there is also the fact that a country like China has already said that they can't 2060, and the way India is placed, despite our best efforts, we are also not likely to reach where China reaches in 2060 before 2082. So keeping that in mind, it would be very important that if a number of countries can do it much before 2050, then even if India and China are lagging behind, by 2050, we would have covered a lot of ground. Other than that, I would also like to bring to your notice that this transition is going to be very costly. To just give you an example, in the year 2020, which was last year when we were fighting the COVID, and we still are, the average carbon dioxide emission worldwide has been 51 billion tons every year. And for the first time last year, it was 48 to 49 billion tons, which was about 5% less than the average. And that was not by choice, it was by pressure of the COVID pandemic that we could reduce it by 5%. But look at the cost. We could reduce it by 5%, but in the bargain, we lost more than 1 million lives and tens of millions of people lost their jobs. So this is going to be the cost of transition, which together as a world community, each country would have to, contribute in the best possible way. The poor countries, they need to be supported by the richer countries, because as Bill Gates, the well-known businessman of US, who just released a book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, he mentions a beautiful line in that book and says that the poor people of the world can't be forced to remain poor because the rich countries released the greenhouse gases for all these years. So I think that is a very profound statement and will bring about a lot of cooperation amongst the rich and the poor countries of the world. And I think together with good leadership, with good coordination between the various countries and the rich countries helping the poor in this transition, I think the world community can still win this battle against this evil called global warming, which Colonel P.V. Singh and Sardar Kuldeep Singh ji have already explained what are the bad effects, and they can still get much worse, and we could even have many islands and very many countries vanishing from the earth and many coastal areas being impacted very badly. So I think this is high time. All these solutions that we have already discussed, they impel the world community to come together make it the priority number one, the agenda point number one of every country's, political governance agenda. And at the same time, for a country like India, the future can only turn bright if we get this happening in the next couple of years or maybe 2 or 3 decades. So this was all I wanted to add. Thanks very much.
I'll just add one point which I did not add because of lack of time. I think the solution will lie in technology. A very big contribution, and with lot of technologies are under development already, and lot of work is being done in different laboratories across the globe. Different nations, different intellectuals, scientists, social scientists including, they're working on that. The two areas which we need to focus is, one is the technology, how that technology benefit can go to the maximum places. Like in solar, we have done wonderful job. Where India, Narendra, that was one step which our country took the leadership right in 2016, and when Paris Accord was going on. And the same time, there was one solar solar nations. There is total. They have started planning. Over 124 nations are already member, which are harnessing, which are dependent on solar, which have maximum utilization of solar power, being in the center of the globe. So similarly, lots of technology are under development. Those technologies must be put more and more into usage so that we cut short this time. And number two is the political leadership. Like how political leadership, how they can put their energies behind solving this problem. These two things, and for which, for politics, the only way to doing it is making more and more people conscious about it. I'm very happy there are lots of movements going on in Europe and USA especially, which are all working for bringing better awareness. We must do it in our country also, in the third world countries also. So these two things hold the key to successful implementation. But thank you very much, SP Singh, for adding a lot of knowledge what you have given us today. Thanks very much, Kazan Saab. And please, with your conclusion.
Just wanted one more point to be added from my side. Just one more point. You just mentioned US. So one major problem that the world community might face is that it was during the year 2020 only that US, for the first time, it became the biggest producer of petroleum products and the biggest producer of gas. And therefore, as Sardar Kuldeep Singh has already mentioned, the big lobby in US may not permit US leaders to deny to celebrate this position they have attained for the first time. But I believe much more than celebrating the, being the biggest producer of hydrocarbon on the earth, I think the US can take the greatest credit if they become a leader in controlling the hydrocarbon zone. Is going to lead here. Thanks.
To conclude today's very interesting and very important subject, we learned what is global warming and how badly it is going to affect the future of life on the planet. Equally to all kinds of societies, whether they are rich or poor. It will affect some countries more than others. Countries like South Asia or the tropical countries, or the countries which are island countries, low-lying areas will get submerged. Lot of areas will become desert, the availability of water will reduce for agriculture and for other requirements. So many new pathogens may emerge, which may increase the health problems of humans and crops and animals. Lot of work has been done, lot of studies have been done worldwide on the likely impacts, and lot of measurements is going on. There are various agencies, government agencies all over the world who are working continuously, as brought out by Kuldeep Singh ji. Lot of technologies have emerged where which will be alternatives to the use of petrochemicals and other things, fuel which we use for industries and for motor vehicles. The best, the foremost among them is the solar energy, which will light up our houses, which will give power for our industries and replace use of coal and natural gas for production of electricity. Important thing next is the political will and keeping the interests of poor countries so that they also develop and they are able to eradicate their poverty, and the cutting of emissions or development or lack of money or technology doesn't come in way of their poverty eradication programs. China and India are, China as of the latest data available is probably even more bigger emitter than USA. But China is on the path to reduce, and China doesn't have much hydrocarbons. It is a net importer of petroleum products, even coal, and very keen to move to alternate methods of production of energy. Let us all hope, but as individuals, I would say that in our country, as individuals, we must increase the awareness among people so that they can change their little change in lifestyle, wastage, recycling of the things, lesser use of plastics, things like that, if done at a bigger level, will also make a lot of difference. And also, which government is also doing, afforestation, growing more green cover, that is another solution which will absorb a lot of carbon dioxide and reduce the presence of this gas in the atmosphere. So let us all resolve to plant more trees. Let it be done at the government level. I have seen in other countries, in developed countries, along the highways, both sides, 500 yards, they have thick vegetation. And that absorbs all the pollution, all the emission, which is left by the vehicles there, with the produced by the vehicles there. Similar thing can happen, at least in our country. There's a lot of fuel is wasted because of choking of the traffic, because of waiting at the lights, because of other traffic problems. So if even that is resolved and traffic move is smooth, lot of oil will be saved, lot of emission will be reduced. So that is another thing. At individual level, let us all contribute whatever we can, and we must make more and more people aware about this, and our next generation who are to spend their life, it matters to them more, and if they contribute, I think things can become much better. Of course, at government level and various other organizations, they are doing their job, and eventually humanity is going to win over this problem. Eventually it has to happen.
And we'll keep learning, we'll keep discussing things, and I'm very sure in a few days or few weeks time, it will become nearly a brand for others to come, join and participate. Yeah. So thanks very much,
Thank
sir.
you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Manmeet.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. God bless.